And New Village Vice. Got something on my chest that I want to get off here in just a couple of minutes. He's Zach Blackerby. I'm Brad Law. And Zach, it's been over a week since Nick Saban retired. It's been much longer than that since he decided he was going to retire, but that's another story for another day. And we are seeing the effects. We're seeing the aftershocks in Tuscaloosa. It's been very cold in this area recently. And I understand a lot of people have been flocking to Tuscaloosa to try to escape the cold and warm their hands by the dumpster fire that is the program right now in Tuscaloosa. Did you see those reports?
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on in Tuscaloosa. Look, I'm so excited to finally be able to sit down and record this with you because you have been telling me so many things, and I'm ready for you to tell somebody else at this point. Your thoughts?
So, you're tired of hearing it. We gotta get it on other people's ears and eyes.
Yeah, no, I think it's time to let's address. We've hinted at it before, on past shows, but there's some things we want to react to, as well as just kind of a big picture conversation about what exactly is happening, not only in Tuscaloosa, but what's happening in Tuscaloosa, as much as Auburn folks may hate it, it impacts all of college football.
It does, and that's kind of the point of all this. It does impact Auburn. We've already done a show where we said this is a time where Auburn can capitalize. What are some of the other fallout effects of this new head coach and a new regime? Like, I remember a time when NFL head coaches left to become coordinators at Alabama, and now people are reacting like Bill O'Brien, but he was terrible. Like, nobody liked Bill O'Brien. Like, Bill O'Brien can't do his job. Give me a break.
Right.
And now, if you'll notice, the reaction nationally is exactly the same when mid-level MAC coaches leave their head coaching positions to become coordinators at Alabama. Have you noticed that the national reaction is exactly the same? It's a home run hire. How many home run derby winners ever determined a World Series championship? It's great that home runs are flying left and right out of the ballpark. What does it mean right now? Nothing.
It is interesting, the perception of hiring, South Alabama coaches and Buffalo coaches. I think the hires make sense, Brad, but the discussion around them, it's pretty wild how much of an applause Kalen DeBoer is getting for those hires.
Correct. Whether it's his offensive coordinator who came with him from Washington because he wasn't going to sniff the head coaching job there, or the two co-defensive coordinators who left their head coaching positions at lower levels to come. By the way, they're not the first coaches to do that. Dan Enos did that at Central Michigan. He left the head coaching position at Central Michigan to be the offensive coordinator at Arkansas. How'd they do? This is not unprecedented. It's not special to Tuscaloosa. There's another bit of fallout, though, that I want to talk about. On our most recent show, we talked about sort of the mystique dropping away from Alabama. And that's what happens when the entire identity of a program is wrapped up in a head coach. Alabama has championships and tradition and a passionate fan base and a loyal is the kind word, fan base.
Sure.
And they have plenty to stand on, and you're now going to see them attempt to do that because that's the right strategic move. But for the last decade and a half, the identity of the program was tied to only one individual, and he's not there anymore. Now, our friends at the Next Round talked about this on their Wednesday show, and I want to play a clip that pertains to the fallout and the reaction and what you're seeing currently in Tuscaloosa. This impacts Auburn, and I'll talk more about why after you watch this clip from the Next Round.
I was having this conversation with somebody the other day because they were talking before Caleb Downs even entered the portal about how many guys were in, and Isaiah Bond started the ball rolling. And I said, this Alabama fans, this will probably be a wake-up call to them. I think Alabama's collective, and I know people in the chat room, say, oh, Alabama's a poverty program now. The next round thinks their collective was behind, guys. You can make all the jokes you want about it. It was behind.
That was my point on the Saban was making up. I said it wrong. Was filling a lot of gaps.
That's what I was going to say is I think Alabama fans, this will be a wake-up call. This can only be construed as a shot at Kalen DeBoer, and it's not meant as one. But Kalen DeBoer is not Nick Saban in recruiting. Nick Saban covered up a lot of errors in recruiting, and Nick Saban covered up a lot of holes in a collective. And Kalen DeBoer will not be able to do that yet. Maybe if he's there 15 years, he could, but he can't yet. So this would probably be a wake-up call. I told somebody yesterday to Alabama fans that I have resisted this because I have thought Alabama football should be able to operate without the type of collective that Texas has or LSU has or anybody else has. And this is probably a wake-up call that I don't care how big your name is. I don't care if you're Alabama, you're Notre Dame, or you're Michigan. It's the way the game's played now. And you better participate or you're going to lose. And I wondered if it would be a wake-up call. And, I mean, those numbers tell you it's somewhat of one.
Yeah, I don't know who you point the finger at.
All right, so what did you hear in that clip? Well, first of all, it's a realization and an admission that, yeah, today's college football, it's another example. I mean, everybody watching this knows that football today is different than it was a decade ago and 20 years ago. You can build a roster much faster now.
Yeah.
You can also destroy. A roster can be built or destroyed, gutted much faster now. And I think what Ryan said there is absolutely correct, and you're already seeing it. The response from Alabama people has been to increase the movement in their collective. So I say, now there's another component of this, and we're going to touch on this here in just a second, but okay. My thought is, how does that pertain to Auburn? How does Auburn make sure they maximize their capitalization on this moment in Tuscaloosa? Well, it's probably to increase their own participation in NIL, because you better believe it's coming from Tuscaloosa. They've wrapped up their identity in one man for nearly 2 decades. He wanted it that way, by the way. That's why he came to Tuscaloosa, so he could wrap up an entire identity in himself. Now it's not that way, and you're going to see them start giving more and more and more. And I think to me, it makes sense. If you want to get the most out of this moment, this opportunity, for Auburn to do the same thing. Now, Zach, we made the point, we were talking about this yesterday, just in other conversation. We're not going to come on and shill for Auburn's NIL. That's not our job. That's not our position. They will do that on the other side, though. You'll see national media begin to do that. But to me, I think there's a correlation. You're going to see more from their side, and I think it makes sense for Auburn to maximize its efforts right now in this time to do the same thing.
Yeah, the Saban discount was a real thing. Players would take less because they got to play for Nick Saban, and in turn, probably get a clear path to the NFL, because the NFL would give you the benefit of the doubt if you had, if you had an Alabama helmet on, at the Senior Bowl, or, whenever you were being scouted, which is fair. I think it's warranted. I think they earned that. You win championships and you produce, he had more first-round picks and losses during his tenure at Alabama. Like, he earned it. Yeah. And he earned that for his players, and his players knew that. I don't think it's a bad thing, but it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
And I thought the Alabama name would keep more guys on the roster than it has. I mean, we're talking 30 guys that were in the 2 deep on this team last year are either going to be gone because of graduation, or entering the draft, or entering the portal. And we've talked about, the ability for Alabama to reload, but a lot of their depth that they would have reloaded with, it's not there anymore. Antonio Kite is a guy that was part of that depth a year ago and was kind of next in line. And he's one of the many examples. He's now an Auburn Tiger, but the Saban discount it's not applying to Kalen DeBoer now. And so can Kalen DeBoer get that back quicker than other places? Yes, because he's a head coach at Alabama, but he's going to have to do it, and he's going to have to do it at a high level for 4 or 5 seasons. And we'll see if he's able to.
And he'll be given every possible advantage by media members. That's kind of where my focus is. Look, this is a content. We're creating content. People are absorbing it. They're watching it, and they watch other media as well. it's no secret. This has been happening since the days where like the one talk radio station in the state was the only voice. And there's an Alabama media machine. They will make it very easy to try to easier than neutral. Let's say that way. It's not going to be neutral. They'll give him every opportunity to get these advantage. I mean, you've seen their media members publicize their NIL opportunities, like as if they're reporting facts or as if they're breaking stories, when really they're just kind of giving up the information. So they'll be given the opportunity there. This was not of this was exactly what their previous head coach intended. That's the other point that I want to drive home. This is no accident that it was this way. He also put them in this position. I want to drive that point home as well. If you think Nick Saban decided 5 minutes before a team meeting that he was going to retire, you're delusional. You're not being reasonable if you think that was the case. You also weren't paying attention to him in any press conference all season long. So the fact that all these people are jumping ship at the time that they are, and they're allowed to do that because of the window and the way the rules are right now, he knew those rules. He did nothing to stop this from happening. He could have announced. In fact, I would say to you, I would submit to you, if he had announced his retirement 2 weeks before the playoffs started, they might have won the whole dang thing. Can you imagine the groundswell of emotion behind how they would have played in those in the playoffs? So in any event, they're now dealing with the repercussions of exactly what they asked for and they wanted when they gave one man the total control and identity of their program. They've put their current head coach in the position that he's in right now.
Yeah, and it was worth it. I'm sure if you ask every Alabama fan, like, would you do it over again and do it this way? Yeah, you would. I mean, you would do that for 1 or 2 national championships over the span of a decade and a half, let alone what they were able to do. Yeah. And even on the years where they fell short of a national championship, they still won 10 or 11 games or in the thick of it. So,
no doubt.
You know, I think I was about to say 99%, but I think every Alabama fan would say, no, this is worth it. It was worth it. And they were able to be successful because they did wrap it around one person. And that one person was the best to ever do it. And so, like, that's part of it. I'm a Patriots fan, Brad. And you know, you were able to do things a certain way for a long time because you had the best NFL coach of all time and the best quarterback of all time. And then one of those pieces leave and you still try to operate the same way and it doesn't work. Like, you need certain guys to lead your program or your franchise at any level. And when somebody in that leaves, Nick Saban's interesting because it's just one guy. It's not a group of people. It can't be the same. Yeah. And so, look, Kalen DeBoer is an interesting hire, not because he has been successful everywhere else. They could have hired a bunch of coaches that have been successful everywhere that they've been. I think it's interesting because it's so different than what Nick Saban did over the last decade and a half, because he won by getting the best talent every single year. That's a great strategy. Everybody's trying to do that. He did it better than everybody else, with the exception of 1 or 2 seasons when Kirby Smart started the Georgia dynasty that we may be seeing kind of form here. Kalen DeBoer, I still don't think is going to do that. In today's age where there's a lot of really successful NIL groups, and it seems like On to Victory is in that conversation, Brad, I don't think you're going to be able to do that anymore, regardless of how much effort Kalen DeBoer puts in on the recruiting trail. He's not Nick Saban. He knows that. And so he's going to have to beat people with scheme. And that's why they went out and hired him, because he has won with scheme everywhere that he's been. But can he do it consistently in the SEC? And we can guess all we want, but it's impossible to fully know until he does it.
Yeah, there have been a lot of really exceptional basketball coaches. Some like tremendous scheme coaches have come and gone in the league because they couldn't get elite talent. And, you know, he doesn't have a sparkling recruiting history. So now he's recruiting against Hugh Freeze, who does have a sparkling recruiting history.
Don't you think
Kirby and these guys?
Don't you think, though, we'll know the recruiting piece to all this pretty quickly? Don't you think we'll know pretty quickly as far as if this is going to work or not on the recruiting front?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just saw it. And look, he is a better hire than Brian Harsin. And, I love the Husky Harsin jokes and all that just because it's funny and it's the offseason, it's entertaining. Yeah, but it's, he's going to, I think he's going to put more effort in than Brian Harsin. If he doesn't, Alabama's in trouble. But I don't think that's going to be the scenario that we see. But can Alabama continue to do what they've done if they finish, 8th, 9th, 10th every year? No, I don't think so. Right. In recruiting, 8th, 9th, or 10th in recruiting. I don't think so, because what they did over the span of, they would just stack classes that were so much better than everybody else. And it gives you such a big advantage. As far as finishing 8th, 9th, or 10th, like, you can be a great coach, but you're not going to be in a situation to win a national championship every year when you do that. You can peak every 2 or 3 years, which is kind of what Auburn tried to do under Gus Malzahn. And it almost worked, right? Like, they made it in 13. They should have been better in 14. They made it in 17. They should have been better in 19, right? Like that's kind of what you were at. And I think most programs are okay with that. Is that going to be good enough in Tuscaloosa? I don't know.
No, it's not. It's not. Ray Perkins, who followed Bear Bryant, coached 4 seasons in Tuscaloosa. In 3 of those 4 seasons, he finished in the top 15. Not in recruiting. In the final polls of the season, he finished top 15.
Yeah.
Out.
Yeah.
And by the way, the year he didn't finish in the top 15 wasn't the last year. It wasn't, well, now he's out and he's gone. No, that was his second year that he was outside of the top 25. The last year he was there, they had a top 15 team, but they weren't at the same level.
Yeah. The thing that may change this is if you finish 9th, you're a playoff team.
Correct.
And so does that look the same? Because we lowered the barrier of entry to be a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not opposed to it. I'm not for it, but being a playoff team this year and moving forward is not the same thing as being a playoff team over the last few seasons. Is that good enough? Like, if you make the college football playoff and you're a top, it's not even technically 12 because of conference championship. So you probably got to be a top 10 team to make the playoff. Like, if you're 9th or 8th, is that good enough? And my guess is it will be, Brad, but I think we're about to see a different world of college football than we have over the last few years.
I don't think it will be. No, I don't think it'll be close to enough. I think, where would you compare Alabama football fans to Philadelphia Eagles fans? And think of the outcry they have with Nick Sirianni right now.
I don't know if you can compare Alabama fans to anybody else, because they have been fed championships at a higher level than any other sports team, right? Like, the Eagles are good. They've been good. They won a Super Bowl a few years ago against the Pats, but I don't think. And
how delusional are they being about their head coach right now, who took them to the playoffs again this year after nearly winning a Super Bowl last year?
Mm-hmm.
And they want him out.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I think it's that times 100 in Tuscaloosa,
because they've grown accustomed to championships, and that's kind. I mean, I think that mindset
before he got there, though, too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right. Well,
do you feel better?
I kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me get that off my chest. Feel free. This is going to be a fun read. Feel free to comment below what you think about that discussion, and whether I don't know what Auburn should be doing right now to fully capitalize on this opportunity, because it's there.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. All right. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at mybookie.ag. MyBookie is the best place to wager on all of your sports actions. Go ahead and set up a free account. Get ready for the NFL playoffs this weekend, as well as college basketball. We'll talk a lot about Auburn Ole Miss on tomorrow's show. But yeah, head over to mybookie.ag. And when you make that first deposit, use promo code NEXTROUND. You'll get some extra money to bet with and more chances to win. Once again, mybookie.ag. Use promo code NEXTROUND. The least surprising news of this week was Derek Nix being hired and officially named as Auburn's offensive coordinator and running backs coach, Brad.
Yeah.
I guess the most interesting thing about this is how the news broke.
Yeah.
I guess that was Wednesday morning with Lane Kiffin kind of putting out a statement there that was very passive aggressive and petty, which, I mean, is getting a little old. It used to be funny. Now it's getting a little old, but disrespectful to the guy who's served Ole Miss for the last 15 years or something, 16 years. So I don't know. I'm glad he's here, and I kind of bet that he's glad that he's here too.
Yeah, that last point especially says it says a lot that says a lot about the two opportunities that were in front of him. He's worked under both guys as head coaches, and he chose to make the move across the Alabama state line and leave a place that he had been for 16 years with a coach that he's worked with now for 4 years. He chose the coach that he worked with previously. I think that says a lot. I mean, obviously the title change is important. Probably a salary bump is important, but I mean, Derek Nix had some serious roots at Ole Miss, and certainly in the state of Mississippi. And the fact that he made that choice, he goes, all right, I could work for this guy or this guy, and I'm going to choose this guy, and I'm going to go work for him again because I have real experience working with both. So I'm excited to see what he does as a recruiter. The state of Mississippi has really flourished in terms of high school football talent over the last generation or so.
Yeah.
And so having somebody with those connections to both the state of Mississippi and the state of Alabama, being from Atala, Etowah High School, I think he's going to be a tremendous asset to the program.
Yeah, I do too. And we'll see. I guess we can speculate on how involved he'll be with offensive game plans and play calling and all of that. But regardless, the most important thing, and there seems to be a theme here, is Hugh Freeze bringing in guys that he trusts and everybody being on the same page. And it didn't really sound like that was a thing this past year. So getting guys in that he can trust to recruit, while Hugh Freeze, I think, will have a bigger say in the game plan, and it sounds like he's calling plays and all that stuff. So I think that's going to be huge.
Yeah. In the last segment, when I talk about other coaches saying that there's only one voice, that's not meant as a derogatory thing. You need one voice from the very top down throughout your program. And, I think it's the head coach has to be able to do that. And then he has to be assertive enough to do it. And I think you're seeing it now with the way the staff is coming together.
I agree.
All right. I got to talk about our friends at Manscaped. And just wait, guys. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to start talking about Valentine's Day and Manscaped.
No, you're not.
Oh, I am.
Are you really?
Yeah. Tomorrow, though, today, I'm going to talk about New Year's resolutions. How many of you made your New Year's resolution and have kept it? Like, we're less than 3 weeks in. Are you still keeping those resolutions? Go to manscaped.com, promo code VICE. You get 20% off and free shipping. Resolutions shouldn't be the only things that are well kept in 2024. It's the time for new heights, new opportunities, and a new look for your Times Square balls. The ball drops every New Year's. And so whether it's Times Square or elsewhere, Manscaped's Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is every man's cheat code to look good, feel good, and turn the page really with confidence this year. So whether you're looking to maintain a trim or go for the clean-shaven look, this trimmer has you covered. Zach, it's trusted by over 10 million men worldwide, and now it's time to get a grip on your grooming with this exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com, use code VICE for a 20% off discount plus free shipping. So happy new year from Manscaped. We can still say happy new year. We're less than 3 weeks in.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. Antonio Kite, former Alabama corner, is now an Auburn Tiger. And Brad, he's got a very real chance to start day one.
Yeah, pretty exciting. Pretty exciting for another. I just love it when Calhoun County guys make the move to Lee County. Kite, a former Anniston Bulldog, and now he's an Auburn Tiger. So good size, excellent length. I think he adds tremendous. I think it's a really strong depth piece for this secondary. Whether he starts, do you think he starts right away, or do you think he like at worst provides great competition and bolsters the depth?
Yeah, I think worst case is he provides depth and is that third corner for you. I think a lot of it has to do with how Keontae Scott and this coaching staff view Keontae Scott. Now that he made the move to outside corner, we saw him play outside corner for the bowl game, and he was fine. I think he's better in the middle of the field. I've been pretty consistent with saying that, but we'll see. If that's part of Keontae Scott's reasoning for coming back is because he wanted to convert to outside corner, then I think you've got to respect that and honor that. But if for some reason he, stays outside, I think Kite's a great depth piece. But if Keontae moves back to nickel and plays where I think he's really good, and that's in the middle of the field and close to the line of scrimmage, I think he could start opposite Kayin Lee as outside corner. So the fact of both of those situations are the most likely two situations, I think is great for Auburn, because I think both of those are really good things.
Kite, a unanimous 4-star prospect. He was ranked the number 8 athlete, number 9 player in the state of Alabama by 247.
He would have been Auburn's number 1 player in that recruiting class.
Say that again. Say it again for the people who were just sort of passively listening.
Yeah, he would have been Auburn's number 1 player in his recruiting class if he would have come to Auburn instead of Alabama. So, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. So Kayin Lee, JD Rim, JC Hart, you've got a lot of youngsters that are there. Yeah. And now Kite is another guy who'll have 3 years of eligibility remaining. Tremendous piece to add to the secondary. Auburn's got some good secondary news this week. They've had a couple of additions there that help you for 2024 and beyond.
Yeah, Jaron Thompson, the transfer safety from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
They feel good about Laquan Robinson, the JUCO player that they went out and got. I'm really high on Sylvester Smith. So all of a sudden, the depth in the defensive back room it's looking a lot better than it did a week ago. Everybody's kind of falling into place. So we'll see what happens.
Colton Hood, Caleb Wooden. I mean, you've got and Tyler Scott is in that mix as well. So you got a lot of bodies that are going to push each other and compete.
Yep. Brad, I think that about does it for today's show.
It does. I'm going to breathe a lot easier now. Big, deep breaths and feeling good for the rest of the day. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Remember, everyone has vices. They do. Everyone has vices. Make sure Village Vice is one of yours.